background.
Stephanie, welcome back.
Hi.
How are
We haven't
you?
done an episode. I feel like we haven't done an episode together for a little bit.
We had some Mondays where so Stephanie and I do every Monday live, and we've had a few You've been out, and then we had a few Mondays where we had a guest cancel last minute, and we just decided not to go live. So
yeah, I was out taking in the sun in Florida for like the 2 minutes that we actually got to go outside. So that was nice.
Was it nice outside in Florida?
It was really hot. Yeah, it was nice. But it was, I was at an event. And so it's like 8 a.m. till 8 a.m. till probably 8 p.m. was just stuff going on. So I didn't get a lot of chance to sit outside, but man, it was hot, or else my body.
Did you come with your dad joke? Did you have enough time to build up a good dad joke? I've got a doozy for you today.
I wanted to, but there was an emergency at my son's school, and there was a kidnapping.
Ooh.
And he woke up, but it was a problem for a little while.
That went dark, and then not all of a sudden. That was so.
That's what you've got to do. You've got it. Like, you can't go, I've got a dad joke. Do you want to hear it? You have to slide it in.
Well, this one's obviously a dad joke.
Okay.
And it's also dark. So why doesn't the devil drink protein shakes?
Oh, Jesus.
Because there's no way in hell. There's no way in hell. All right, we're gonna start off.
Whey, W-H-E-Y.
Did that take a bit? It took you a bit to wrap your head around.
I'm not that smart, right?
Yeah, I'm not that bright either.
It's amazing
we have anybody listening. All right, what if the best thing you could do for your business, Stephanie, is make yourself unavailable? That is certainly the best thing I can do for mine. Brad Jacobs built XPO Logistics into a $1 billion operation by installing presidents into each business unit, then refusing their calls for 6 months. The forced silence broke the permission-seeking reflex and turned managers into owners. That's not delegation, that's designed absence. I like that phrase, designed absence. Today on How to Founder, we'll be talking about building businesses that run without you. I'm your host, and with me today is my lovely and could have been well-tanned co-host, Stephanie Hayes, but you didn't go out in the sun in Florida.
I tried.
Our guest today is Joe Rockey. He's a serial entrepreneur who's built 29 businesses with 25 now operating independently of him. He's the founder of Elite Business Conversations and author of Casino Sales Master, bringing relationship-driven sales philosophy and autopilot business design to founders tired of being the bottleneck. Joe, look at that. He has a backdrop and he's frozen. So you froze for a second pointing at your book. That's actually really great product placement.
He's doing the same thing with the podcast. He's making himself unavailable for the podcast. And we're gonna it's your own dog food, right?
Yeah, eating your own dog food. All right, so Joe, you built 25 that run without you. Most founders can't extract themselves from one. What do you do differently in the first 90 days that makes this even possible? Joe?
Sorry, you cut out on me there. Most founders can't what?
Most founders can't extract themselves from their business. So how do you do things differently?
Yeah, so for me, it all starts with breaking it down into smaller parts. And every business overall, in my opinion, is the sum of only two questions. What is the business's relationship with the clients / prospects? And what is the business's relationship with the employees? The predominant way of solving this is solving those two problems. So at the end of the day, everything I do comes back to a relationship in its essence. So what your example that you gave here at the top of the show of installing managers and then not talking to them is the example of forcing an expectation of a relationship, that you have to do this yourself without doing it. Now, I don't go that extreme intentionally. What I do is the way that we structure every position is based upon a do or die mentality. I have been in myself in a commission-based lifestyle since I was 16 years old. And I believe that every position should be that, regardless of what it is. So as a business owner, as hiring employees, you need to know what this position is supposed to accomplish, right? And then you just basically reverse engineer, how much should we pay you for doing this? And then there is no salary in my world. There is no hourly rates. None of that exists in my companies. It's do this, get paid this. And then you know very clearly what the position is, what you're going to be getting out of it as the business, and you build the relationship there. And it's amazing how much easier it is to do the hiring process when that is your compensation method. So that's one of the big secrets that I like to lead off with, because if you just implement that into your world, your entire business changes.
Yeah. So you're saying every employee expense.
I apologize, Anthony. Your mouth moved, but I didn't hear
it. Stephanie, am I coming through okay?
Yeah, you're okay. I think it's Joe that's got a delay.
Joe, I think there's a delay on your side. So I'll talk more slowly. So you essentially all of your employee expenses are variable, and you said it's easier to hire people that way, or it basically kind of separates the wheat from the chaff when you're bringing people in. If they don't want to do it, they're not confident in their ability to execute.
No, it definitely makes them easier to hire. And the reason is because you're getting very clear about what it is that you're doing. It will, when I say easier, it removes all that filtering that you have to do with your standard hiring process of should I hire this person or hire this person? Because they know that the position is going to be rewarding them based upon their success, they are able to essentially self-select them. So for instance, if you are someone who's going to be hired for marketing in one of our spots, typically we do JPEG things that go, on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. And the way that we do it is put a little QR code on whatever ad we make so we know you are the individual who actually made them. And we can track that internally. And it's really straightforward. They come into the restaurant, boom, we know you sent them. And all of them get their results instantly. This many people have come in, this is when they did, et cetera, et cetera. So opposed to most marketing people, which would be, hey, I made the ad for this week, it works or it doesn't work. It's, I didn't get the numbers I thought I would get for the Tuesday. I'm going to tweak this thing a little bit and make it better for tomorrow, so on and so forth. And you also empower your people to be able to have the executive decisions to be able to do. Now, there's certain parameters, though the logo is what the logo is, the color scheme is what it is. But just to give an example, that in most cases, it's just an hourly rate and a bottom of the barrel hourly rate, you can get paid effectively infinity by keeping the entire place full. And that's why it's easier to hire. It's very difficult to implement this midstream, which I help people with all the time. That's harder. But to start your business for the foundational starting it with the mindset of every position is going to be a commission based.
Joe,
how to go about.
You're cutting in and out a little bit, so I don't mean to keep talking over you. Steph, I'd love you to weigh in on this. I've never tried this. I think it would be great as a founder if you could essentially not. It's basically what Joe's talking about is you don't really hire anybody. There's no upfront expense. You pay the people that choose to work for you based on their results, which sounds amazing, but what's your thoughts on this, Steph?
Yeah, so what Joe's talking about, a model that is very focused on, being sales driven, and this is a marketing team as far as I understand. And so you can do that because there's a correlation between it's almost like having an affiliate model in a way, and you've got like marginal identifiable income. If I can offer another example that's a little bit similar in terms of kind of the principle that we're going for, we the very first consulting company that I started up, we had a team of maybe 15 consultants, and the way that we structured the model was that they were all contract resources, and they got paid basically just on what we got paid, right? So they would have a percentage model of all of the work. So we had no overhead other than systems and stuff that we had to pay for to operate the business, which was very, very minimal, and any marketing expense, etc. But we had a model where we had consultative selling, and we had and everybody sort of ate what they kill, right? And then there was an incentive model to be able to enable them to do more and take more of a leadership perspective. So in that regard, like the model sounded good, but what was really interesting was the behavior that it actually caused to have happen, which was sort of the reverse of what we were anticipating. And so I think the model on paper looks good. The realities of the humans that are inside of the roles was actually quite different than what we had anticipated as an outcome. And so I think there's a conversation to be had about the realities of managing and motivating and setting up incentive structures inside of an organization like that enables you to eventually step out of and get to almost just an operator role, and then eventually be able to just be the puppet master, right? So I think that
I'm starting to see that this would work for all roles in the company, but maybe it could. So Joe,
it does.
So tell me the weirdest role that, like I'm thinking, like somebody they're the janitor, right? Like you can't pay a janitor that way. Well, I guess either the floor
you do for janitors,
not, right? Yeah. So you could do contract based on that. But what's the hardest role to fill in this model?
So the hardest role is actually the further you're away from the sales side of the space. The hardest roles are like the HR type roles, actually, because what you need to be able to do to do this successfully is you have to have a very clear and definitive task. And so many problems that happen in the hiring system is because of the hiring system. So, and what I mean by that is that if you are a professional at HR and being able to place people and more importantly, be able to read their personalities and understand them, you can write a job description that can be universal to every personality type out there. And then you just, during the interview process, push whatever part will gravitate towards that person, whether they are actually, that's the job or not. It's 5% of the job, but we're going to push it so you're there. So then what ultimately ends up happening from a cultural standpoint is I'm super excited I got this new job. I'm 6 months into it. Now I feel like this isn't the job I got hired for. 9 months into it, I'm disengaged or leaving. And that's essentially what most of the modern hiring process is, because it's so broad in our descriptions. By being able to, and this is getting to your answer, by being able to tie it into 2 specific or 3 specific tasks, that this is what you get compensated for, you are able to solve that problem of what are they actually doing, and is this something you're going to like? So that's there. The hardest part, like I said, is the ones where it's not clear. Like what is a good HR outcome? You found a health insurance plan we all like, or you negotiated at a lower rate. You just got to be very clear as far as those. But the HR world is definitely the hardest part of doing this. And quite frankly, it's actually the one that I outsource the most. I also pertain to the mindset that if what your business is doing does not directly relate to the product or service your clients are paying for, you should be outsourcing it. So like I outsource payroll completely. We're not a tax company. We're not going to try to sell it. So by getting down to your core, it really cuts out a lot of these other elements and makes this process easier. And then, like I said, it just starts from the beginning of knowing your business and every step along the way that fulfills that relationship with the client.
Steph, want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, so I'm curious, Joe, to learn a little bit more around sort of the scope of the businesses that you've used this model in. And so I'm trying to think of, does this apply to every different type of business model? And I think there's some thinking that can, for sure, but I'm curious, like, are these typically marketing teams? Are the like marketing heavy businesses? Is this a sales heavy business? Like, what's the nature of the business that, if I'm not sure why you've only started up 29, but if, you went to 100, are all those 29, like, are they shooting for the same thing?
No, they're across the board in what they do. A lot of them do feed into each other, but they all are different. Like, for instance, the 4 that I have active right now, I have my sales course that I am actively involved in because I got to teach people and do the actual coursework with them for our annual sit down and our mastermind. Most of it is outsourced or I'm not involved in because I've already pre-recorded the content, but that's one of them. Obviously, you can't be on stage speaking and outsource that to someone else. So that's my other business that's active, the consulting process that's there, and then my Elite Business Cruises company, which is basically the extension of all of this. It's the input for most cases. So if you look at that, incentive travel, which is the cruises, the consulting, being on stage speaking, the book, the coaching course, a ton of different real estate ventures have gone into this. So yes, the long story short is we have a song company. we you name it. We're engaged right now in trying to start up a platform that's going to be essentially Facebook for loans. So yes, it can be done for any type of business. With the most important part is just as it is with any business, you have to be very clear as far as.
Sorry, those businesses have a ton in common so I can see how this model would work, especially when you have variable revenue, therefore you need your expenses to be variable. There's some circumstances where I can think of a lot of circumstances. I mean, McDonald's could not run like this, right? Or companies that have
a restaurant can, but McDonald's can't because of their bylaws.
A restaurant can. Well, a restaurant kind of does. So especially for servers, but
I do this with a sports bar, so yeah, it can be done.
So you're the cooks, the line cooks, right? So you have line cooks that have variable salaries based on how busy the restaurant is?
No, so for the actual cooks pay, it's step 1, it's attendance, and then step 2 is the quality. So every time they go out, we do a little quick, what would you rate your meal quality as?
Okay.
So I guess in that regard, you could say it's hourly because it's them actually showing up on time.
It's close. It's close. Yeah, but I can.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're essentially creating an environment where pay is more based on performance than showing up. Steph, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's. I want to. Part of the focus of my work is on how we take CEOs out of their operational role inside of the business and change their role into something where they can step away, right? Because they tend to sort of focus their value on the delivery of the thing, whatever it is, or being part of making the business work. And the irony is that they're actually more valuable to the business when they are out being visible and driving relationships at a higher level and creating, partnerships, that sort of thing. So I'm really curious how this model, like, is there a little bit of a life cycle with each of these new businesses that you start up, whereby you are in that founder role for a period of time and then you step away, and how do you make that happen?
So yeah, the answer is yes, because normally I want to build something new, and there's not like a predetermined timeline that we're going to do this. It just, that's how I am. I see a new problem that I want to solve, and I build a business to solve it. But if you look at it, because all of the components of whatever the task is are already pre-laid out and all the positions are there, it's very easy to step aside. I really do not believe in micromanaging. You obviously teach your people and you train them how to do it, and you have a manager involved in there. But you have it set up that, from intentionally designed by this, unless I'm missing what one of the things of the employee relationship, or the relationship with the customer would be, it's already all taken care of with a process put in place. And then the last spot is hiring the person who would do the duties I was doing for a particular role, which oftentimes is the oversight and the hiring. So yes, this structure makes it that if there's any part of your business that you want to actively be involved in, you just take that part over, because it's very clear steps, outcomes that you need. So the answer is it's built like that, design from day one, that I don't have to be in it, because the tasks are already laid out and you know what they are. And as long as you stick with it and you're fully aware of all the steps, yeah, as long as you have people in place that are capable of doing it, at any point you can step out of it. So like you take, like I said, take any of the examples, that's the answer. So sorry, I'm going long-winded here. But that's the answer is yes. It's whenever my brain decides I have a new problem I want to solve and I build a business for that, I effectively step out of one of the other ones. And the other part is it really makes them easy to sell. In terms of the businesses, because whoever's buying them doesn't have to do anything except for collect.
Yeah. So the exit, certainly when we talk about exiting businesses, Steph and I have talked about this quite a bit. Not requiring, non-owner reliance is a big bonus to selling it. But Steph, I'm getting a little anxiety thinking about this, because I'm a kind of a, I feel that the quality of the product that my name is on and the quality of the delivery has a really high chance of struggling to be maintained, first of all. Secondly, I think we're skipping over the hard part, so we talked about I really think that Joe, your ideas around compensation models is really interesting. But Steph, this requires something that you and Chris talked about last week, which is really good organizational design and really setting the systems up in place. Steph, what do you think from an organizational design and a systems architecture? How do you set this up? How do you start thinking about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating to me. My background is all in business model design, and I love doing it. I've done it at the corporate level. I've done it at the small business level, and we do it all the time. And there's some really important sort of fundamental keys. I mean, first of all, you have to go into this business with the intention that it's going to be a business you step out of, right? And that's what a lot of people don't do. And sometimes that's okay, because that's not what you want. You actually want to build this as your labor of love. And if that's the case, keep moving, right? But if you are intentionally wanting to build a business that you can step out of, then you have to start with that intention. And that's going to change the decisions that you make about who you bring on, how you make money, what your role is, and what the end of that role is, how you operationalize and almost productize everything that you do inside the business. And so there is a possibility here, but I think what people skip over is the people part of this. One of my businesses is all about building high growth teams for high growth companies, and how we build a different kind of infrastructure around teams other than the typical sort of HR piece. And this is all about self-managing teams. It's all about really focusing on the human side of that, and what are they bringing to the table, and how do we do job architecture so that it is it spins nicely without a lot of loss, which is what happens in high growth teams. So I think that first and foremost is the intention to build a business like this, and you make decisions, because once you've made decisions for, the business you stay in forever, those are hard to reverse, and that creates a culture, and et cetera, et cetera. So being very, very clear that the message to all of the folks who come in and work inside of your organization is that they are going to be self-managing, that they are going to have ownership. You've got to be okay with certain decisions being made without you. You've got to be able to put this comes back to something like EOS, right? And it's not EOS, but the same idea that everything sits in sort of a container, and that these different functions within the business are very intentionally designed, and compensation and accountability and ownership are extremely important in terms of how you're creating those containers for work. So Anthony, I would put it back to you. If you put that same thinking hat, put your little thinking cap on, and pretend you're going into your last business with that intention, what would you do differently?
All the things.
Tell me, where did you get stuck as a founder? Right? Where did you get stuck as a founder when in the moments where you felt like this business is totally dependent on me?
Yeah. So this happens for me, not unintentionally, where I just naturally give somebody autonomy to do things, and where I, being really candid, where I have struggled in the past and have really worked on myself on is being intentional about defining the outcomes and the objectives, and letting the individual decide how they're going to get there. So being less prescriptive on the task and more prescriptive on the objective, as essentially it's kind of like prompt engineering at this point. You're
such a nerd. Listen, this is opportunistic. Now you're being opportunistic.
How am I being opportunistic?
For your new podcast.
Oh yeah. No. I'm literally not thinking about that. I do think that it's a lot like how you get an AI to do things that you want it to do, and you define the objective. So Joe, what I want you to talk about a little bit is the tactics. So you're setting up your organization, sure. You're creating a new company. How does it manifest? How do the job requirements and the day-to-day tasks actually manifest in a to-do list, or in a job description, or in here's the objective? How are you measuring this, and how often are you measuring it?
So let me give you an example that's even going to be harder mode, because this was a client that already had an existing company with all the stuff that Stephanie said that, was already there. And it's actually one that people will be able to visualize pretty easy, because he owns a hotel. Most people have been in a hotel before. And to specifically answer this for two areas, the problem he was experiencing was that he was in a travel area with a lot of different hotels there. And the long story short was that he was in a price war for his cleaners, and he didn't want to keep having to raise the prices nonstop for essentially the same kind of cleanish, kind of dirtyish rooms that he was getting out of there. So his prior method was to do what other people do in the past: have the managers really on top of everyone, micromanaging, make sure you clean every nook and cranny, etc. And it wasn't working. I mean, long story short, he was burning out his workforce and having to overpay for this failure as relationship with his employees. We come in and we basically created a school grading system. An A+ room pays this, a B+ room pays this, a C+ room pays this, etc. And we also then said you can do as many rooms as you want, and we put a cap on it. And then we did the other thing. We said, as long as it's done before X, we didn't care what time you started, when it was, any of that stuff. As long as it was done before X, and I believe it was 2 p.m. You're going off of memory here. So the long story short was that change of not having to stay the whole time to get my hours made people want to come to his firm. Now, what changed, the other part of this, was how do you test quality? The way that we did it was essentially the cleaners had the floors all the way across it. So 4-story building. The managers were in charge of there were 4 managers in total responsibility for the cleanliness. Each of them had 2 different ones, and they all overlapped. So you couldn't have any personal biases of, oh, I just like this cleaner versus that cleaner, so I give them more points or whatever. So it was very evenly spread across as different people checking the quality of the cleanliness of these rooms. So long story short, because they didn't have to show up before their kids were dropped off for school, they were able to spend that time with their family. And they actually showed up later in the day, spent less time in the hotel, but were giving much more quality answers. And on an hourly rate, he is spending way more than anyone else. But overall in net, which is what only part really matters, he's actually spending less than what he was before, getting higher quality rooms, getting better reviews on all of the different websites, and charging more as a result of it. So there's a lot of friction in the beginning when you show up with this, because the ones that just want to show up and get by and get, punch their clock, they leave. You accept that as a cost of doing business up front. But your job description is straightforward. You get paid. This is the scale. We don't even really care the order in which you clean them. That was the other part that was remarkable. Before we started, almost all of them did one room, door open, all the way through, then they'd come out. Eventually what it became is they did sections. They'd open up 4 doors at a time, do all the beds, then do all the sweeping, then do all the bathrooms, because they found it was quicker. It was quicker and they could do better at it. And from an individual standpoint, that's all that mattered. And because the company just wanted clean rooms done by 2 o'clock, it doesn't really matter when they do it. I mean, quite frankly, you could do them at 3 a.m. It doesn't matter as long as it's done before 2 o'clock the next day. And that's how it went about it. And then the managers come through and they do their inspections on the rooms that are already done. Typically started around noon, and they just went through until 2. And that was it. So it can be done on any level. It just, like I said, you have to be very clear about it, and you got to trust the people you hire. But as long as you have a very clear and consistent scale, it works.
Yeah, fascinating use case, actually. And I can see how it would work. Steph, last thoughts before we get into the speed round.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of management by objective on steroids, right? Like what I can see happening in that kind of scenario, and with any scenario, is, and this is where a lot of managers / founders fall down, is that if you bring the right people on and you just give them an objective, they're going to self-organize and they're going to start developing their own processes because they know best, right? They know best what the work is. The trick here is hiring the right people.
Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, Joe, are you ready for the speed round? All right. What percentage of decisions in your business should require founder approval?
I might be cut out.
The speed round is really hard with the tech delay. What percentage of decisions?
It is. Sorry about that.
Yeah. What percentage of your decisions in your business should require founder approval?
Once this system is established, 0.
Founder who stays too long, or replacement who starts. Founder who stays too long, or replacement who starts too early? I don't understand that question. Let's skip it.
Who writes these questions, honestly?
No, these are terrible questions. Document the process after you've mastered it, or while you're still figuring it out?
Before you even start, you should know what you want the relationship with your client to be before you start. So neither of those 2 options.
Okay, so how often? This is. I think this is gonna be easy for you. Turn off Slack for a week and force async decision making, or do you leave Slack on?
I don't do Slack.
Okay. What kills autopilot businesses faster? Unclear roles or founders who won't let go?
Both, but it's both. But not having your objectives set create failure for every single thing. If you can't do that, you can't do anything I discussed.
All right, very cool. So some deep dive resources. Built to Sell, Creating Businesses That Can Thrive Without You by John Warlow, and the E-Myth Revisited. We talk about this all the time by Micah Gerber. This was actually really fascinating conversation, Joe. Where can everybody find out more about you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Elite Business Conversations is the consulting site. Elite Business Cruises is where we really get into incentivizing people to get whatever event you want. So I mentioned in the story there about the hotel that there's a lot of employees that just aren't engaged. And we created this Elite Business Cruises as a shortcut. No matter what their motivational force is, they will become involved. And it doesn't matter what the position is as well. We can help implement this as a starting step into your world, into your business, regardless of where you're at right now and when you started.
Very cool. Stephanie, why don't you bring us to a close?
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today. As always, we are so appreciative of all our listeners and everyone who engages. Please make sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify channels. Remember, you are the pioneer of economic prosperity, and we are so grateful to be with you all along the way.
Thank you, everybody.